Hey, it's Butters from Rugby League Fantasy Pro. Welcome back to NRL Fantasy School. In this lesson and the following lesson, we're going to be breaking down the 8-man unstructured bench, how it works, how auto emergencies work, and then moving into how you can take advantage of this and execute what we call looping. Now, go back a few years, and NRL Fantasy was a lot more similar to Supercoach in the structure. So in Supercoach, you have your positions and your reserves specifically for that position. Okay. There are dual position players in Supercoach, but in order to actually be able to swap them, they need to be matching. So for instance, if we have a second row forward centre here and a second row forward centre here, well, we could swap them over. Okay. But everything is a lot more structured. You have to have so many reserves for each actual position. Now, in Supercoach, and this is the way it also used to be in fantasy, if you have a player in your 17 not play and you get caught out, then your auto emergency for that player is the lowest scoring non-playing reserve in your squad. So if you have a Owen Paddy, for instance, up here, who scores 5 points, okay, and you have a 55-point second row forward get scratched in the warm up, well, you cop that 5 points for him. Okay, pretty rough. Um, Now that used to be exactly the same case in fantasy as well. And a couple of things, it doesn't reward teams that really manage their roster and have good depth. And it also created a really not great situation for the more casual players that have to work weekends, etc., and not able to be on their phones checking every final team um, announcement or monitoring right up till game time to know if one of their players got scratched from a hamstring warm up, etc. Okay, so during that time, I'm actually the person that devised this current system and took it to NRL Fantasy. And what I wanted to come up with was something that overcame those obstacles. And what I came up with was, okay, well, what if we have a completely unstructured bench where you can actually have whatever combinations of players you want, and you can prioritize your bench in order of usage. And then if you have a player out, then you've already picked who you would want replacing them. So under the proposal that I took to fantasy, in this situation here, for example, well, if if we have Guy here not playing, then whoever the highest eligible prioritised wing fullback is on our 8-man bench would become the AE. So you're being rewarded for depth rather than punished just because the player's out late. Okay. Now, the one thing that I proposed completely different to this was having a hard start of round lockout. Because if you've set your priorities up, then you don't need a rolling lockout. But the rolling lockout would still be in place if you wanted to trade players. But if you traded them, they would stay locked into whatever spot they were already set up as. Okay. Now that would have not allowed for any of this looping business whatsoever. And being a bit more of a purist, that was kind of my idea. But they decided to. I don't think the guys that managed this game did it deliberately, but they decided to leave rolling lockout anyway, which creates a scenario called looping. Now, let's just go through different scenarios of how this bench works. And I'm going to just be swapping and moving players around. This team, by the way, is not my team. There's no way in the world I'd be having Max Feagai for starters. It's just an auto pick that I'm using to specifically use for this lesson. Okay. Now, If you've got a player on your bench that gets scratched in warm-up, their position doesn't matter because they're an interchange player. So the replacement for that will be just the next scoring player down your bench. They're the next prioritised. Yeah. If you've got a starter out, then the position matters completely. So if you've got a hooker, let's say that Watson does his hamstring during warm up, then the replacement for Watson is going to be the highest prioritised hooker on the bench, which is Marnie. Now, because Marnie's now being used as an emergency, your four reserves now are going to be Crichton, Brown, Derby, and Solo. Now, in the event that Derby's also not playing, then your four reserves would be Crichton, Brown, Solo, Haywood. Okay. At the end of the round, your four bench players are the four highest prioritised ordered on your bench that played and got points and that were not used to replace somebody in your starting team. Simple enough. Okay. So if we have, say, Mooney go down, well, the highest ordered middle is Sawler, followed by Haywood. Okay. If we have an edge go down, well, our highest ordered edge is Couchman, who's the only edge player we've got. Now, there's a tendency with, especially with newer players in fantasy, to be hung up on thinking of starters and bench as if it was real life. Okay. Now, it's actually not real life. There's a few different things going on here. So what I want to look at is this situation here where we've currently got a red dot on Max Fearguy. Actually, it's not Max, it's his brother Matt Fearguy. Um, Now, because he's a wing fullback, our auto emergency for him is going to be our highest ordered wing fullback on our bench, which is Derby. Okay. But Derby isn't playing. So it'll be the next highest ordered, which is nobody. And because we don't have any cover, we would actually get 0 points. Now, this illustrates the situation perfectly. What you want to be doing in setting your team up, pick the 17 players you want scoring, okay, but then prioritize dual position over here and single position over here. And I'll show you why. Now, Carraz is dual position, Crichton single position. I'm going to be using both of them this round anyway. If Carraz scores 50 points sitting here, he gets the same 50 points here. It doesn't make a difference to his score whether I have him as starting centre or as an interchange. Here's where the big difference comes in though. Watch what happens when I swap. So because he's dual position, I'm going to start him off my bench, and because he's single position, I'm going to start him in my 13. And now I've got Fearguy down, but I do have cover. So I'm not stuck without any cover getting 0 points. Okay. So one thing you want to do is stop thinking when you're setting your team up, stop thinking about, oh, well, such and such is better than such and such, so such and such start, and this guy is not as good to be on the bench. Think of it in terms of dual position coverage versus single position. If you're going to score, if you're going to be playing both players in your 17, one single position, one's dual position, start the single position, leave the dual position over here. Okay. Now, once you've done that, your 5 through to 8 should be prioritized in the order you want them used in. Now, let's say we've got a situation where Derby was supposed to be playing but did his hamstring during warm-up. Okay. Well, then our four reserves are going to become Carraz, Mooney, Brown. Derby's unavailable, so our next prioritizer is Solo. Okay. That's how it works with bench players. With your starting players, it's totally by the position. So if Watson does his hammy during warm up, then the replacement for him is our highest prioritised hooker. Same with our middles. If the middle goes down in warm up or just gets scratched for some reason, then the highest prioritised middle is Solo and then Hayward. Okay. Same with the edges. Our highest prioritised edge is Couchman. Okay. Highest prioritised centre over here is Carraz, who's also our highest prioritised wing fullback. Now you can have as many as 4 replacements during a round. Okay. If Mooney got knocked out, Tupanua got knocked out, Chester got knocked out, and somehow or other you forgot that Crichton was on a bye, and you actually have cover for all those 4 positions, apart from having your 4 scoring reserves as well, then your whole entire 8-man bench would end up scoring for you. Okay. So the other thing that this system does is we're no longer limited to one very crappy AE. We get rewarded for our depth and we can have multiple players struck down by whatever. Okay. Going to leave that for this lesson. If you still don't have your head wrapped around this, go back to the beginning, watch it again. It's really not that tricky. All you got to do is think in terms of, okay, well, I've got one 8-man bench. It's completely up to me what order I prioritize my players in, and that's the priorities that they'll get used in. And for starters going down, it's like for like position, however high you've ordered them. And if a bench player goes down, it's just next man up. Okay. Leave that here for now. Go back over it if you need to. And in the next lesson, I'm about to start recording after I process this one. We're going to start looking at taking advantage of that with what we call looping. I'll catch you soon.